Our cover story tonight is a story of rising frustration among the people of Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. They have simply had enough and they are making desperate appeals. They want the Prime Minister of India to save them. And meanwhile, India has had a historic weekend hosting the G20 summit. So while India shines globally, old problems are plaguing Pakistan-occupied Kashmir, and the people of Pakistan-occupied Kashmir want to merge with India. Also on the show for you tonight, where is China's defense minister? We get you the latest on the mystery surrounding China's missing minister. We also get you the latest from on the ground in the aftermaths of the Morocco earthquake. The disgraced Spanish soccer chief has stepped down over the kissing row. We get you the latest reactions. Sweden is batting for back to basic schooling. Should your country follow suit as well? We get to the complete story. Was the partition of India in 1947 a terrible mistake? Would Pakistan have been better off as a part of united India? These are not my questions. These are questions the people of Pakistan are asking themselves, and we don't blame them for doing that. Just have a look at some recent developments. As India hosted world leaders for the G20 summit last week and displayed its growing significance on the global stage, there was a meltdown in cash-strapped Pakistan. The country's citizens were protesting for freedom, reminding the leaders of how far behind India has left them, even threatening them about a merger with India. I'm not making this up. Have a look at the kind of statements that they have been making. Ask Modi to get us freed from Pakistan. Yes, these are the kind of pleas that are now going viral on the ground and on the internet. And according to activists in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir, Shabir Chaudhary is one such activist. He has been posting a series of videos online voicing the concerns of the general public. And he says thousands of people residing in villages near the line of control are raising pro-India slogans and requesting the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi to free them from Pakistan's illegal occupation. Let me just quote the exact statement for you. Pakistan is perturbed over the state of affairs, but the most astonishing thing I got to hear is that the people residing near the line of control in PoK are raising slogans asking Modi to get them freedom from Pakistan's illegal occupation and saving their souls that are dying from hunger. Now, what is all this about, and why are they making these statements? The answer is, why won't they? When their country's economy is in the ICU, when the prices of fuel and basic needs have shot up to astronomical levels, when the currency is in free fall, and when forex reserves have all but disappeared. But you see, this is the state of affairs in the country, to be honest. If we speak of PoK specifically, the people are fed up with the government exploiting their resources. They are fed up of. And to make things worse, in January this year, Pakistan strengthened its already strict blasphemy laws. A move that many say was aimed at targeting the beliefs of Shia Muslims. In fact, just 2 days back, authorities in PoK filed an FIR against a prominent Shia cleric. His name is Agha Bakir al-Husseini. He was booked for saying that the blasphemy laws have been made stricter to target the Shias. And soon enough, thousands of Husseini's followers staging a protest on the streets of Skardu and threatened to merge with India if their leader was arrested. You have to listen to this.
अगर तुम रास्ते में डाउट पैदा करोगे तो हम करगिल जाके दिखाएंगे तुम्हें खुदा की कसम अगर तुमने किबला आगा बाकिर अल हुसैनी को गिरफ्तार करने की कोशिश रही ना हम रहेंगे ना फिर तुम रहोगे
This happened 2 weeks back. Over the weekend, meanwhile, India hosted the G20 summit and announced a slew of deals with countries across Europe and West Asia. And one such deal is the India, Middle East, Europe Economic Corridor, a corridor that many believe would become an alternative to China's Belt and Road Initiative. In Pakistan, the announcement of this deal came as a shock for many people. They are angry that their leaders are not acknowledging the magnitude of this ambitious project. Many of them, in fact, are venting their frustration on the platform X, formerly known as Twitter. One user said that being a Pakistani citizen, he feels ashamed because the leadership in Islamabad is not accountable and has not done anything of significance to develop Pakistan. A Pakistani businessman took to X to say that Pakistan should rethink its stance on India and try to join the land route. He said if their leaders cannot do this, then they are just blind. And what's only adding to the meltdown is the fact that the Saudi Crown Prince is also on a state visit to India. He was also expected to go to Pakistan for a state visit. But Saudi officials are yet to confirm the dates. And this has triggered a meltdown in Islamabad's corridors of power. The country's caretaker government was pinning its hopes on the visit, expecting the Saudis to share the burden of their financial woes. The hopes now lie mired in uncertainty. And given all these developments, one cannot help but sympathize with ordinary Pakistanis. Maybe the creation of Pakistan was not such a good idea after all. Where is China's defense minister? His name is Li Shangfu, and he was last seen in public on the 29th of August. It's been almost 2 weeks since then. And when he was last seen, Li was wearing a military uniform, flaunting his stars, and addressing the 3rd China-Africa Peace and Security Forum in Beijing.
We uphold a common, neutral, cooperative, and sustainable security mindset and follow a new security path of dialogue rather than confrontation, partnership rather than alliance, and win-win rather than a zero-sum.
Now, what happened to Li after this speech? No one knows. Li Shangfu is 65 years old. He was made the defense minister of China only this year, in March to be more specific. And what else do we know about him? He comes from a military family. Li's father was in the Red Army. He fought the Japanese in 1930s and 40s. Between the 1950s and 60s, Li's father was in charge of the PLA's railway force. This was in the border regions of Tibet and Yunnan. In short, Senior Li was a pretty well-known Chinese defense official. Li followed his father's footsteps. After getting a degree in engineering, Li Shangfu joined the PLA. He was all of 24. At 22, he had enrolled himself into the Chinese Communist Party. Li has made the most of his degree in aerospace engineering by contributing to China's satellite program, by the way. In the year 2018, Li was sanctioned by the United States. This was under CAATSA, or Countering America's Adversaries Through Sanctions Act. And now, for all you know, Li's own bosses have gone after him. His colleagues have become his adversaries, it seems. If indeed Li is missing, he will be the latest in a constantly expanding list. You remember Qin Gang? He was China's foreign minister when he went missing. And he has not been seen in public since the 25th of June. In the weeks following his disappearance, his meetings were cancelled without any solid reason. It's been almost 3 months since. China replaced him in July, but he remains missing. And then there is Wei Fenghe. He is Li's predecessor, and he also has not been seen for months. Very interestingly, on the 31st of August, the Chinese Defense Ministry vowed to, quote-unquote, crack down on every corrupt official. This was after China reshuffled its senior rocket force commanders. By the way, no one knows where these commanders are now. On the 31st of August, the Defense Ministry spokesperson had said, I'm quoting, "We will investigate every case and crack down on every corrupt official." Adding, the Chinese military governs according to the law and shows zero tolerance of corruption. Could Li have been a victim of this very crackdown? We know for a fact that the Chinese military has launched an inquiry into hardware procurement. Could Li's disappearance have anything to do with this? Reports claim Li headed the equipment department from September 2017 to 2022. The American ambassador to Japan is equating this disappearing act to an Agatha Christie novel. Have a look at what Rahm Emanuel has to say. President Xi's cabinet lineup is now resembling Agatha Christie's novel, and then there were none. First, the foreign minister goes missing, and then the rocket force commanders go missing, and now defense ministers, Li Shangfu, defense minister, has not been seen in public for 2 weeks. Who is going to win this unemployment race? China's youth or Xi's cabinet? Hashtag mystery in Beijing building. Those are sensational words to say the least, but where is the lie? In which other country do top ministers, cabinet ministers, just simply disappear? And the answer is none. Something really strange is happening in China, and the world needs to ask the necessary questions. China watchers are claiming the defense minister could be under investigation. What investigation? If a minister is being probed, the least you will have is some report in the media, some source-based scoop. Chinese media obviously is not in the business of journalism. August 17th appears to be the last time Global Times wrote about Li Shangfu. Chinese defense minister visits Belarus to enhance ties. That's the headline. But what happened once Li returned from that visit? Why is it that Li has not been seen in public for 2 weeks now? Why does the Chinese Defense Ministry have no news on the defense minister? No updates on his whereabouts, no articles on his speeches or his appearances. The last post about Li was published on the 30th of August, and the last time the Defense Ministry held a press conference was on the 31st of August. What has been happening behind the Iron Curtain since? Cracking down on corruption is one thing, but this vanishing act, quite another. What's happening in China is unsettling. Think about it. If a defense minister is not safe in China, if a foreign minister is not safe in the country, then who is? What's happening in China must force those in positions of power in Beijing to introspect whether a third term for Xi Jinping was a term too far. In the last 73 years, Morocco has become a story of human tragedy. It's been 3 days since the country was hit by a powerful earthquake. Over 2,100 people have died, 2,400 have been injured, and at least 300,000 have been affected. How are these people coping with the loss? Our next story takes you to the heart of the tragedy.
This is what parts of Morocco look like today. There is rubble as far as the eye goes. Hamid bin Henna's son was buried in this rubble.
تقريبا 11:30 ياك
It all started at 11 p.m. We were having dinner. I asked my son to bring a knife from the kitchen to cut dessert. He didn't bring it because as soon as he left the kitchen, the earthquake struck. He ran here where you can see the rubble. He was buried by a 1.5 to 2 meters of rubble.
Hamid's son could only be dug out in the morning. Over 2,100 people have died. 2,400 have been injured, and at least 300,000 have been affected. Mohammed Tagwi, a local resident, saw his home fall apart. He is now homeless and spends his nights on the streets. Thousands share his fate in Morocco's capital, Marrakesh. What the people of Morocco need is urgent help.
What do people need now? They need food, clothing, fresh water, hygiene, blankets, tents. That's what's available here. But we were told that this is not enough for everyone. And that's why we are here, to fill any gaps. We do this with our local partner, who is very well connected here in Morocco, and also cooperates with local authorities.
Rescue teams from several countries have arrived in the country. Workers from Spain, Qatar, Britain, the UAE are working around the clock. But reaching Morocco's remote areas is not easy. Roads have been overrun by boulders, cutting off the quake's epicenter from the mainland. It's déjà vu of the 1960 earthquake that killed over 12,000 people in Morocco.
Most of the people in the old city were sleeping at home. We woke up and fled to save ourselves. We were lucky to reach the street before the buildings collapsed.
56-year-old Hatem Rashid is living in that constant state of fear. Rashid was born and raised in his grandfather's house, which was built in 1943. The quake destroyed his home, and now Rashid can't afford repair, so has turned to the government for help.
I hope the authorities will repair or rebuild all the damaged houses. Now my family must leave, but we have nowhere to go.
In the Talat Niaqub village, most houses have been razed to the ground. Many still remain trapped under the debris across Morocco, but there is little hope for them and their loved ones. In the high Atlas Mountains, most of the houses are made of traditional mud brick. When the quake struck, these houses were reduced to earth and rubble, leaving those trapped without any airspace. For those who managed to escape, it is now survival of the fittest. Bureau Report, WION, World is One.
The G20 summit is over, the deals have been struck, the announcements have been made, the event is still making headlines, and then there have been a series of gaffes and questionable antics of some leaders that are being talked about. Take Rishi Sunak, for instance. The Prime Minister of Britain is being criticised for his behaviour during a wreath-laying ceremony at Rajghat, a memorial dedicated to India's father of the nation, Mahatma Gandhi. On Sunday, G20 leaders assembled at the memorial to pay their respects to Mahatma Gandhi. But as the ceremony ended, Sunak did something that has not gone down quite well with some people. You see, as soon as the leaders started leaving Rajghat, Sunak was seen grinning and turning back to engage with the US President and the Indian Prime Minister in a conversation. In his defense, most leaders were engaged in conversations with one another. Yet, it is Sunak's behavior that has not been well received. Some are calling it too casual for a venue like Rajghat. Others are saying it was downright disrespectful, not befitting for someone of his stature. And here's hoping the message has reached 10 Downing Street. And by the way, this was not the only incident that made headlines for the wrong reasons. There were more, courtesy Joe Biden. The US President lived up to his expectations of making gaffes. This time, he referred to the Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman as Mohammed bin Salam. And immediately after that, he cut his speech short, almost embarrassed. Watch this.
And I particularly want to thank Prime Minister Modi and the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, Mohammed bin Salam, and President von der Leyen and the European Commissions. And since he's not speaking today, I wanted to, well, maybe he is speaking today. I had a note he wasn't speaking. At any rate, I'm going to stop there. And I particularly want to thank Prime Minister Modi and the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, Mohammed bin Salam, and President von der Leyen and the European Commissions. And since he's not speaking today, I wanted to, well, maybe he is speaking today. I had a note he wasn't speaking. At any rate, I'm going to stop there.
And then there's Justin Trudeau, the Prime Minister of Canada. He did not make headlines over a goof-up, but over a technical snag in the plane that he was traveling in. Last night, the plane suffered a technical snag and broke down. This mechanical fault kept him in India overnight. Trudeau's office had to reach out to the Canadian Air Force to get it fixed as it operates the plane. Canada's CTV identified the plane as an Airbus, saying that it was not clear when it would be able to return. It also added that this was not the first time it had faced such problems. And this is what Trudeau's office said in a statement. Let me quote. "These issues are not fixable overnight. Our delegation will be staying in India until alternative arrangements are made." So we have Sunak, we have Joe Biden and Justin Trudeau, all of these Western leaders making headlines, not just for the official engagements, but also for unofficial reasons. And we are not done with Joe Biden yet. You see, immediately after the G20 summit, he went to Vietnam, and there too he indulged in another gaffe. On Sunday night, Biden's press conference took a rather unexpected turn. He was cut off mid-sentence by his press secretary. Why? Because he started rambling. At least that's what his critics are saying. Watch this now.
We talked about at the conference overall. We talked about stability. We talked about making sure that the third world, the southern hemisphere had access to change. It had access. It wasn't confrontational at all.
Thank you, everybody. This ends the press conference. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.
Are you bringing U.S. strategic interests above the right here in Vietnam?
I've raised it with every person I've met with.
Mr. President,
are you worried about your son being indicted, Mr. President?
Well, you saw that. The White House press secretary literally cut short the press conference as Biden was speaking. And what followed was some jazz music blaring from the loudspeaker as Biden continued speaking, unaware that his microphone had been muted. And this has left many wondering who is actually in charge of the country, Biden himself or his office. I mean, can they really just cut the president off halfway into his speech? And if they can, we wonder if this is part of some White House protocol to save the president from embarrassing himself. The Spanish football chief, Luis Rubiales, has stepped down from his position. This comes after the Spanish player, Jenny Hermoso, accused him of sexual assault and coercion. On Gravitas, we have been bringing you the updates since the beginning of the controversy. But for those who do not know, here's a quick rewind. This is Luis Rubiales. He has been the president of Spain's Football Federation. 20th August was a historic day for Spain. The women's football team had just won the World Cup. The entire country was celebrating, but the celebrations were tarnished by Rubiales. You see, when the team was collecting their gold medals, Luis Rubiales grabbed midfielder Jenny Hermoso by her head and planted an unwelcome kiss on her lips. He also aggressively hugged multiple players without their consent. The video went viral. Criticism poured in for Rubiales. He stayed adamant that he had done nothing wrong, that the kiss was consensual, and he has a good rapport with Hermoso. Even though soon after the incident, Hermoso had said in a live stream that she did not like it. Then there was scrutiny. FIFA's disciplinary committee suspended Luis Rubiales for 90 days. The coach of the women's national team was sacked, and yet Rubiales maintained that he would not step down. In fact, he went so far as to play the victim card. In a passionate speech, he announced not once but 5 times that he will not resign. Instead of rebuke, he received widespread applause from the audience. There was a lot of back and forths on Jenny Hermoso's part. Soon after being forcefully kissed in public eye, Hermoso said she did not like what Rubiales had done. She said this on a social media live stream, but later she issued a press statement saying that the kiss was a spontaneous, mutual gesture to show affection and gratitude. Why the change of statement? Now, before you go on to victim blame Hermoso, consider the pressure she may have received from authorities. Players are asked to keep it together in the press. They are forced to present a positive image. Despite Hermoso's statement, the clamour in the media did not die down, of course. Millions had seen with their own eyes what had actually happened. Hermoso may have been forced to issue a goody-goody statement, but netizens did not buy into it. But it could have been this widespread support which empowered Hermoso to speak her truths. Days later, she admitted that she did not consent to be kissed by Rubiales. Rubiales had maintained that the kiss was consensual. He claimed that he had asked Hermoso for a little peck and she had said okay. But Hermoso called him out on this. She said his remarks were categorically false. In a social media post, Hermoso said, and I'm quoting, "I feel the need to report this incident because I believe no person in any work, sports or social setting should be a victim of these types of non-consensual behaviors. I felt vulnerable and a victim of impulsive, driven, sexist, out-of-place act without any consent on my part. Simply put, I was not respected." 81 players confirmed that they would not play for Spain's women's team until Rubiales was removed from his post. And ultimately, Jenny Hermoso filed a legal complaint against Rubiales for sexual assault, and Rubiales issued his resignation. Now, I hope this sends out a powerful message to all those men who are high on power, who think they can do as they please and get away with it. No, I'm sorry, you simply cannot. You cannot kiss a World Cup winning player on stage and then just justify it with your false narratives. The path to justice is not easy, but with joint effort, it was made possible. The media, survivors, support groups had active roles to play. It has been a month since the incident, but nobody slept on it. The media actively covered it. Survivors came out and shared their own stories. Hundreds of Spanish women could resonate with what had happened to Hermoso. Spain had its very own Me Too movement. It was called Se Acabó, which translates to It's Over. There was national outcry from support groups to politicians, from victims to influencers. Jenny Hermoso received widespread support. So for the women watching me who have survived sexual abuse, please do not give up. Please speak your truth. I hope that one day you will receive justice as well. And just a little over 2 weeks ago, India's Chandrayaan-3 lunar probe made a stunning touchdown in the unexplored south pole of the moon, a small robotic probe far away from home, embarking on an epic adventure. And since then, since that historic landing, it's been tirelessly toiling away. The tiny explorer has been pulling off a moonwalk that would make Michael Jackson proud, relaying information back to planet Earth and teaching us scientists secrets about that bright, shimmery object we all gaze at every night. Chandrayaan 3's Vikram lander and Pragyan rover are in deep slumber, resting through the 14-day lunar night. As for the wake-up call, mark your calendars, because the big event is expected around the 22nd of September. But while the lander and rover take the well-deserved rest, let's just get you the details of what all they have discovered so far. The first discovery, and this is interesting, a suspected moonquake. Among many vibrations recorded by the lander, one in particular caught the scientists' attention. The lander seismograph seems to have recorded a very small seismic event. It was recorded on the 26th of August. ISRO suspects it was a small moonquake, or it could be the impact of maybe a tiny meteorite. But such events are expected on the moon. As per ISRO, the source of this event is under investigation. The second discovery, testing by the rover confirmed the presence of sulfur. The rover also found aluminium, silicon, calcium, iron, among other elements. Now, sulfur's confirmation is really important here because it is a key element of molten rock. Researchers think that primitive moon was covered with a thick layer of hot molten rock, and this molten rock later crystallized to form the moon's surface. Measurements of sulfur concentrations can provide insight into that process. However, it's also possible that the sulfur came from asteroids. And therefore, the question arises, is the sulfur on the moon's surface intrinsic, volcanic, or meteoritic? You see, sulfur is also a volatile element. It easily vaporizes and escapes from the atmosphere. The proof of sulfur might give some hints about how the moon was formed and how it evolved. It could actually be an indication that there is water ice on the lunar surface. Lunar water could serve as a source of oxygen. It could mean possibility of human life on moon. The third discovery, the temperature at the moon's south pole. Understanding lunar temperature is important, especially if we talk about human settlements on the moon. The Vikram lander is fitted with a temperature probe. That probe contains 10 sensors and is able to reach 10 centimeters below the surface of the moon. Now, preliminary data shows that during the day, the temperature in fact is around 60 degrees lower than at the surface. Measurements so far have found that the temperature at the surface is significantly warmer than what was recorded by NASA's 2009 Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter, as per reports. And lastly, a thin layer of ions and electrons swirling near the lunar pole. The probe on board has done measurements of density and temperature of the moon's ionosphere. ISRO has reported a relatively sparse mix of ions and electrons. It has been found in a 100-kilometer thick layer of electrically charged plasma, the plasma that surrounds the moon's surface. As per the initial measurements, density was found to be about 5 Mn to 30 Mn electrons per cubic meter. It is lower than the Earth's upper atmosphere. And before we go further, let me just tell you a little bit about the ionosphere. On Earth, the ionosphere is home to the charged particles in our atmosphere. It's where the Earth's atmosphere meets space. The sun cooks gases until they lose an electron or two, creating a sea of electrically charged particles. It stretches roughly 50 to 400 miles above the Earth's surface, in fact, right at the edge of space. It plays a role in our everyday communications, radio, GPS signals, etc., and it's home to many of our satellites. Let's now get back to the moon. ISRO says that the density seems to vary as the lunar day progresses. If humans were to inhabit the moon ever, the density of the ionosphere would affect lunar communication and the navigation systems. But what do the scientists say? They say that the sparse plasma means that potential delays would be minimal and that it would not pose a problem for transmission. India's robotic explorers are in deep sleep, but their awakening depends on a game of chance. Waiting for the sun's return at the end of this lunar night, temperatures near the poles plummet to a bone-chilling minus 253 degrees Celsius, and neither the Vikram lander nor the Pragyan rover are equipped with heaters, and so their survival hinges on sheer chance. Still, in their 2-week mission, Chandrayaan-3 uncovered so many lunar secrets. It has been an extraordinary historic journey. Regardless of what happens at the end of the lunar night, Vikram lander and Pragyan rover have etched their mark in the field of space exploration. Do you prefer an e-book or a paperback? Would you rather write with pen and paper or type away on a tablet or laptop? Well, it may be a matter of choice for you. What about those who are too young and impressionable to make this choice? I am talking about students of elementary and preschools. Schooling has gone digital, especially after the COVID-19 pandemic. But has it done more harm than good is the question. Is it time to go back to the basics? Well, some in Sweden think it is. Our next report getting you all the details.
It's back to school time for children in Sweden. In this Swedish school in central Stockholm, it means plenty of handwriting classes and hours of quiet reading time. To you, this may seem normal. But in Sweden, it is quite unusual. Why is that? Because it follows the old school method of learning, which is rare in Sweden these days. You see, since 2017, the country has adopted a strategy that emphasizes the use of computers and tablets in classrooms, be it preschool or elementary. Students are often seen on tablets with teachers. Instead of practicing to write, they work on their keyboarding skills. Of late, Sweden's hyper-digitalized approach to education has come under question. An international assessment of 4th grade reading levels showed a downwards trend in Swedish students. In 2021, Swedish 4th graders averaged 544 points. In 2016, the average score stood at 555. Experts and politicians are now questioning the all-out digital approach. Are tablets and laptops affecting students' basic reading and writing skills? Sweden's Minister for Schools, Lotta Edholm, has been one of the biggest critics of digital learning. She believes Sweden's students need more textbooks. Last month, the minister announced that the government wanted to go back on its decision. This means digital devices may no longer be mandatory in preschools. The authorities plan to go further and completely end digital learning for children under the age of 6. But what do the students think? Listen in yourself.
I like more writing in school, like on paper.
Why is that?
Because it just feels better, you know.
You see, at a young age of 9 years, 3rd graders have realized the importance of handwriting. Some teachers, too, prefer teaching the old school way. While technology is well and good, it cannot replace basic skills. For example, typing cannot help a child create the mind and muscle connection that writing can. There may be instances in a child's life where they will only have pen and paper. If writing with hand isn't taught in their budding years or isn't practiced enough, where and how will they develop this skill? And what about screen time? Studies have shown that longer screen time leads to brain fog and sluggishness. It can even affect a child's brain development. Is it not better for a student to focus on a paper instead of a screen? Don't they already spend a lot of time on tablets or phones while playing? Sweden is going back to basics. It is bringing back traditional methods of learning. Should your country too? Bureau Report, WION World is One.
I now want to talk about something that happened over the weekend. What was supposed to be a concert turned into a horror story. On Sunday, musical maestro A.R. Rahman held a concert in Chennai, in India. A staggering crowd of 45,000 people gathered to witness the Oscar winner's performance. However, what unfolded there left many deeply disturbed, furious, disappointed, and distraught. Overcrowding, sexual harassment against women, stampede-like situations, even children being separated or injured as per reports. All of this turned what was supposed to be a melodious evening into a nightmare. Concert goers took to social media, in fact, sharing videos and their harrowing stories. They have criticized the organizers and demanded refunds. The artist himself has offered an apology. Yet, as the dust settles on this entire fiasco, larger questions loom. What are the lessons to be learned from this chaotic event? What safeguards must be put in place for future gatherings? Social media has been flooded with outrage. Many people shared videos of their harrowing experiences, while some complained about how they were not allowed to enter the venue. Others complained about the overcrowding.
Rahman is losing his credibility by joining ACTC. It's very, very worst actually. No, we are going back. We bought 4 diamond passes and we are going.
How long it took to reach here, sir?
It took around 4 hours to reach here.
Okay.
And no, without stepping in, we are going out.
Okay.
Already I came last time, it got cancelled.
Okay.
So again I came all the way from Madurai. I have platinum, which is 10,000.
Platinum.
2 tickets. And
how long it took to reach the destination?
Still my husband hasn't reached.
Oh.
We started 4 hours ago. We haven't even reached here. So I was the only one who walked and came, and I can't get in.
The hashtag AR Concert began trending on social media. In fact, some fans also reported about fights breaking out during the concert. But mostly the concert's organization, the way it was managed, was criticized. Meanwhile, Tamil Nadu police started a probe. Police are also checking if excess tickets were sold. The police is looking into the reasons for the overcrowding and the traffic congestion. They are also looking at the overall arrangements by the concert organizers. Reacting to the posts, A.R. Rahman has apologized. He said on Instagram, and I'm quoting, "Let me be the sacrificial quote this time for all of us to wake up." He said, "Let Chennai's live art flourish with a world-class infrastructure, increase in tourism, efficient crowd management, traffic management, refining audiences to follow rules." The concert saw a footfall of some 50,000 people who purchased tickets that cost between 5,000 rupees to 10,000 rupees. The chaos that we saw at the A.R. Rahman concert serves as a stark reminder. Organizers must prioritize more than just profits. They have a duty to take care of the attendees. How can safety measures be enhanced? What steps should be taken to improve crowd control? How can organizers foster a positive, memorable experience for the fans? For a truly successful event, the organizers need to go beyond financial gains. And before we proceed to our next story, let's just issue a little disclaimer here. This story is for adults and adults alone. So let's begin. How many of you start your day with a cup of coffee? What if I told you that your coffee can say a lot about you? Well, I am not claiming this. An American coffee giant is. In fact, it carried out a study where it paired styles of coffee with different types of personalities. So what is an Americano drinker like? What about mocha lovers? The study shows that if you are a mocha fan, you probably believe that you have a sex appeal, at least more than other caffeine lovers. If you thought that was much, wait till you hear what iced coffee lovers believe. Those who drink iced coffee believe that they are good lovers. 24% of them say that they are good in bed. 12% of iced coffee drinkers say that they are the life and soul of the party. And what about those who drink espresso? Or the lot who would not have anything lighter than a double espresso? The study says double espresso drinkers are likely to be well-travelled, well-read and boast about their university degree. But how many people really drink double espresso? Cappuccino or latte is perhaps the universal favourite. What does the study say about the latte drinkers? They are classic people pleasers. And what about cappuccino lovers? They are likely to be more satisfied with life, or so the study claims. The Americano drinkers are comfortable in their skin and not afraid of criticism. There are some who like their Americano white. They are straight talkers and also hardworking. The study also talks about the special lot who like their coffee non-dairy. And what is this lot like? Mostly introverted, according to the study, adding that they also have a moralistic personality. What if you are a flavoured coffee drinker? It means that you are a happy and go-lucky, fun person. Now, how much of this do you agree with? Do you think your coffee really defines your personality, or does your order have more to do with your mood? We would love to hear your thoughts. And on that note, it's a wrap on this edition of Gravitas tonight. Thanks very much for watching. This is me, Molly Gambhir, signing off.
WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest.
It's easy to tell you a flat story. It's easy to show you what's happening around the world. We do the difficult part.
This weapon has been banned, but the US, Ukraine and Russia do not find the bombs problematic.
We also tell you why what's happening.
A new drug is making a difference in the fight against Alzheimer's. This medicine helps slow down a patient's cognitive decline.
We look beyond the text. We give you context.
Is China preparing for a war in the Himalayas? And tonight, we come to you with some proof.
Hypocrisy is stunning.
Do leaders mean what they say? Do they ever say what they mean? To find out how real news affects you, your decisions.
Just when Iran took one step in the right direction, its moral police is